So we're going to start the first chapter of Iqbal's Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. We already did an introductory video on the lectures a while ago, and then we did preface. From chapter 1, I want to do it slowly. I don't want to go a video 20 minutes so people can actually it would be easy for people to follow if they want to. And the purpose is basically, the real purpose is to understand Iqbal's method. So if I'm going to criticize him or trying to understand the details with the sole purpose of his method. And the purpose we already looked at last time in the preface. His purpose was he said our duty is, at the end of the preface, our duty is to carefully to watch the progress of human thought and to maintain an independent and critical attitude towards it. So I talked a bit about it last time, but just to reiterate, so Iqbal is writing at the start of the 20th century. And the Muslim world is all ruled by imperialism, British and French, mainly British. And imperialism is economic as well as civilizational. And the main challenge, well, not just political, but epistemological. Because a lot of people thought that the main reason for the rise of the West and their ability to colonize Muslim land was knowledge and science. And secondly, this knowledge and science was also giving us a worldview which was totally against a system and religion like Islam. I mean, one of the things you will see in these is people that at the time science was pointing toward materialism, by which they meant that, matter is the last word in the constitution of the world. So there's no intelligence or design working behind it. And that obviously is highly incompatible with a religion like Islam or even Christianity and Judaism. So somebody like Iqbal who still believe in, Islamic worldview, and has studied in European and Western and English system of education, German, and he wants to see or to want to, if there's any interpretation of modern knowledge, especially science, which is at least compatible with Islam. So basic, and in this respect, what we want is to maintain independent critical attitude towards this new knowledge, but without denying its facts or without denying its reality. So and these are lectures, they are not written as a book, so there's a lot of assumptions and which we need to, or we might need to unpack. So in this context, I share this overall purpose. So I want to see if there is a method underlying these, and what is that method, if there is one. And what are his strengths and weaknesses, and then once we have done that, then I think my next project would be to see how this method compares with Iqbal's insight in his Iqbal's insights in his poetry. But that's really much bigger task, because his poetry is more, vast. He has at least 4-5 books in Urdu, and then more than the 7, at least 7 in Persian. So, and basically then connected with our overall project of understanding Islamic rationalities. What's happening? Rationalities, and number 2, understand Western rationalities or Enlightenment modern rationalities. The term West is a bit passe, because there are a lot of modern civilization which is no more Western, but there's still modern, Japan and Korea and all those places. They're still more, part of modernity, but they are not necessarily Western. So, I mean, I'm not concerned with geographical boundaries, because in the West there are people who belong to different rationalities, not to modern or Enlightenment. Some Christians, Jews, some Muslims living there, etc. So it's not a joke. And then obviously, eventually compare them or critique them. So it is this context in which I want to read this book. First, I want to read it slowly, and then, we'll see how it goes. There's no method, fixed things which I think our procedure will be evolving. Okay. So, what is the Chapter 1, Knowledge and Religious Experience? So, what is the character and general structure of the universe in which we live? Is there a permanent element in the constitution of this universe? How are we related to it? What place do we occupy in it? And what is the kind of conduct that befits the place we occupy? These questions are common to religion, philosophy, and higher poetry. Okay. So he wants to know the character of this universe. So by that I guess he means, the obvious thing is the world is created or uncreated, it is eternal. Whether there's a purpose behind it or it's just something, contingent. So that's some of the things which we think of when we talk about what is the character of the universe. And the general structure of the universe, I'm not entirely sure about this at this point. A lot of things which will become clear as we go along. But if I had to, second guess, you will. General structure of the universe, you can think of. General structure of the thing, you can think of. I guess there's a hierarchy. What relation appearances have to reality? Is there a distinction between appearance and reality? That sort of these sort of questions will come in general structure. Is there a permanent element in the constitution of this universe? Is there so a lot of things are changing, so is there a permanent element? I guess it's talking here about, is there a directing force behind all this? Or is this just going on its own? And how are we related to this permanent element? Whether it's a god or like Spinoza's substance, or something to that Spinoza's substance. So it's not working. So so that's a permanent element, and how we are related to it. What place do we occupy in this universe? Are we the center of the universe, as anthropocentric philosophies and religions have us believed, or we are just, one part among this vast universe. So what place we have in universe, and depending on our notion of what place we have in the universe, our behavior, our conduct would change, obviously. So for example, if we are the center of universe and God all has created everything for us, or there's no God but we are the highest form of the life has taken it, so and everything else is serving us, and we exploit nature, for example, around us for our benefit or the benefit of our species. On the other hand, if we are just a part of the whole universe, and then we might have some different ideas. So there are many different ways of behaving in this universe and relating to it, and that will depend on our view of our place in this universe. And so this so what is the character and general structure of the universe in which we live? Is there a permanent element in the constitution of this universe? How are we related to it? What place do we occupy in it? What is the kind of conduct that befits the place we occupy? These questions are common to religion, philosophy, and higher poetry. So religion, generally, religion, it's hard to generalize because there are different types of religions, but the types of religions he has in mind, basically, Hebrew religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and they claim guidance from heavens, from God. Not in each and everything, but at least in terms of principle. And then so religion also wants to answer this question: who has created me? Who has created this universe? What is the nature of this universe? Its methods might be different, but it wants to answer all these questions which were raised, and it gives answer to those questions based on its methodology. Similarly, philosophy obviously does this, at least the type of philosophy we know since Greeks try to answer these questions. And philosophy tried to do this based on reasons. And then poetry, the sort of poetry he is talking about, he is calling it higher poetry. Perhaps he has in mind somebody like Rumi or himself, or Shakespeare maybe, or Homer or Goethe. But I think really it goes back to like pre-Islamic Arabic poetry, for example. Or pre-philosophical poetry in Greece, like Homer and all that. And that poetry is very different from the poetry we have today, in the sense that poets basically occupy the same space, which is the space of a philosopher, a scientist, a religious person, because they seem to have claim to have knowledge about the universe, and all these questions. And their source of knowledge seems to be in between philosophers and religion. It's not very specific, or like they create that knowledge through, reciting to us or gathering and retelling the traditional knowledge, but also divining about different things based on their experience, based on their linguistic constructions, based on their speculation and imagination. So their method seems to be in between religious method and the method of philosophers, that is reason and revelation, if you will. And so it combines a lot of those things and a lot of proto-scientific things and a lot of also literary and traditional and sociological things. So when we talk about higher poetry, we talk about another institution which existed in societies in which we didn't have philosophers and prophets yet. That's why both religion and philosophers have things to say about poets, because they are there. They're rivals, so to speak. They are their rivals. So you will find things in Quran, and you will also find things in Plato's Republic, for example, and Plato's critique of poets should be understood in this context. So they are all three institutions are trying to answer this same question. So I think I'll stop here. We just started and we had a bit of a glitch in terms of this writing, but I think it's a good start and we'll continue from here.